Look, carrots aren't bad for you. Nobody's saying that. But if you're over 60 and you think eating carrots is doing meaningful work to protect your eyes, there's something most people never hear from their eye doctor. The carrot thing, it's based on advice that traces back to World War II. And I'm not being dramatic. In 1940, Britain's Ministry of Information launched a propaganda campaign claiming that RAF pilots had exceptional night vision because they ate massive amounts of carrots. The real reason was classified airborne radar technology they were desperately hiding from Germany. They invented the carrot story, published it in newspapers, plastered it on government posters. And it worked so well that 85 years later, it's still the first thing people reach for when they think eye health. Now, carrots do have real nutritional value. The beta-carotene your body converts into vitamin A is genuinely useful for certain things. But after 60, that's not really the conversation your eyes need you to have. After 60, the real threats are age-related macular degeneration, AMD, and chronic dry eye. Two conditions affecting millions of people right now, quietly, progressively. And carrots barely touch either one. There's a tiny seed that does. In this video, I'll show you what's actually happening to your eyes after 60, why that seed works differently than anything you've probably tried before, and what the research actually says about protecting your vision at this stage of life. Let's get into it. So let me explain what's actually happening inside your eyes right now, because once you understand this, the rest of the video clicks into place. Your retina, the light-sensitive layer at the back of your eye, has a small central region called the macula. That's the part responsible for everything sharp and detailed. Reading, driving, recognizing a face across a room, seeing color the way it actually looks. The macula contains two pigments that protect it, lutein and zeaxanthin. Think of them as a built-in filter. They absorb up to 90% of the high-energy blue light that would otherwise damage those cells over time. Every day you're outside, every screen you look at, that filter is working. Now here's the part that most people never hear. Those two protective pigments, lutein and zeaxanthin, are not found in carrots in any meaningful amount. Actually, let me be precise about that. Carrots do contain trace amounts, but nowhere near what the macula needs. What carrots are rich in is beta-carotene, and that doesn't even reach the retina. It's simply not found there. So it's not protecting the part of your eye that's most at risk after 60. And that risk is very real. AMD, age-related macular degeneration, affects 1 in 8 people over the age of 60. 1 in 8. Think about the people sitting around your last family dinner. By 75, more than 1 in 3 seniors will show signs of it. It is the single leading cause of irreversible vision loss in older adults in the developed world. Not cataracts, not glaucoma, AMD. So what does it actually do? It doesn't take your peripheral vision. It hits the center, the part you use to look directly at something. Letters blur first, then faces lose detail. In advanced stages, there's a dark patch, right in the middle of whatever you're trying to see. There is no cure. I say that not to scare you, but because it's the reason that what you do now, before damage accumulates, matters so much. Then there's dry eye, and I know that sounds minor next to macular degeneration, but stay with me here. After 60, the glands responsible for stabilizing your tear film start to underperform. Your tear film, the thin protective layer that coats the surface of your eye every time you blink, evaporates too quickly. The result is that burning, gritty, fatigued feeling that makes reading, screens, even just being outside in the wind, genuinely miserable. Most people just live with it. They use the drops. They put up with it. They assume it's part of getting older. It doesn't have to be. And here's what concerns me about where this goes if nothing changes. 5 years from now, 10 years. This is how people end up losing the things they didn't expect to lose. Someone who drove themselves everywhere suddenly can't, because they can't read the road signs clearly. Someone who read every night before bed stops because the words won't hold still. Someone who knew every face at a family gathering starts to miss expressions, reactions, the small things, not because of one dramatic event, because of 1,000 mornings of unaddressed damage to a structure the size of a pencil eraser sitting at the center of their retina. I've talked to people at this point, and almost all of them say the same thing. I had no idea this was happening. That's exactly why we're talking about it now. So what actually protects the macula, and what helps the tear film do its job properly? That's where flaxseed comes in. Flaxseed, about the size of a sesame seed, small, flat, brown, or golden. Most people who use it think of it as a fiber thing, something you stir into a smoothie for digestion. What they don't know is what it's doing for their eyes. Flaxseed is one of the richest plant sources of omega-3 fatty acids on the planet, specifically a type called ALA, alpha-linolenic acid. And after 60, that matters in a way that most nutrition conversations skip right over. So why does that matter specifically for dry eye? Let me break this down. The glands along the edge of your eyelids, called meibomian glands, are responsible for producing the oil layer of your tear film. That oil layer is what stops your tears from evaporating too quickly. When those glands aren't functioning well, the oil becomes thicker and less effective, the tear film breaks down faster, and you get that gritty, stinging, fatigued feeling that never quite goes away. Omega-3 fatty acids, the kind found in flaxseed, reduce the inflammation in those glands. They help the gland produce the kind of secretion that actually keeps the tear film stable. They're working on the mechanism, not just the symptom. There was a study where researchers took people with exactly this problem, meibomian gland dysfunction, and split them into two groups. One group took flaxseed oil daily. The other took olive oil as a placebo. Same conditions, same duration. The flaxseed oil group showed significant improvement across the board, in their symptom scores, in how long their tears stayed on the surface of the eye, in the actual health of the gland tissue. The olive oil group? Minimal change. And this isn't fringe research. Many eye doctors now routinely recommend flaxseed oil, typically around 1,000 milligrams a day, as a first-line approach for patients dealing with chronic dry eye. Actually, let me be more specific about something here, because this is where people get tripped up. When I say flaxseed oil, I mean the oil specifically, either in liquid or capsule form. Whole flax seeds pass through the body largely intact. You're not getting much. Ground flaxseed is better. Your body can actually access the nutrients. But if you want the eye health benefit specifically, the oil is the most direct route. I had a conversation with someone a while back. She'd been dealing with dry, irritated eyes for about 2 years. She'd tried every drop on the market, prescription drops, over-the-counter, gel drops at night. She felt like she was managing it, but never actually improving. We talked about flaxseed oil. She started taking it daily. About 6 weeks later, she said something I've heard more than once since. I forgot about my eyes today. And that's never happened. That's the goal. Not managing it. Not compensating for it. Actually working on what's causing it. This is the part most people miss. The drops replace the tears temporarily, but they don't touch the underlying reason the tear film is breaking down in the first place. Flaxseed is working upstream of that problem. And that's just the dry eye piece. The AMD story involves a different mechanism, but flaxseed is still in the picture. Here's what's actually going on inside the retina. Your macular cells are under constant oxidative stress. Every photon of light that hits them triggers a small biochemical reaction. Every day. For decades. The byproducts of those reactions accumulate, and what slows that damage is a combination of antioxidants that can actually reach the retina and anti-inflammatory compounds that reduce the low-grade chronic inflammation quietly driving the degeneration. Flaxseed contributes the anti-inflammatory piece. Its omega-3s dampen inflammation in retinal tissue, and it contains lignans, a class of antioxidants that help neutralize the oxidative damage building up over time. But the research on what directly guards the macula points clearly at something we mentioned earlier: lutein and zeaxanthin, the two pigments that actually live in the retina, the ones not in carrots. So check this out. The NIH ran one of the largest eye disease studies ever conducted, the Age-Related Eye Disease Study 2, AREDS2. Over 4,200 participants, ages 50 to 85, across more than 80 clinical sites. They were testing nutrient combinations to find what actually slowed AMD progression. The original formula included beta-carotene, the nutrient in carrots. When they replaced it with lutein and zeaxanthin, two things happened. First, the formula got more effective. Participants who weren't getting enough of those nutrients from food had a 26% reduced risk of advancing to late-stage AMD when they took the updated supplement. A 2024 follow-up analysis went further. The same formula slowed the progression of late-stage damage toward the central macula by 55% over 3 years, more than half the damage that would have advanced toward the center of their vision. Slowed. For a disease with no cure, that number matters. Second, something surfaced in the beta-carotene data that genuinely caught researchers off guard. The group taking beta-carotene had nearly double the rate of lung cancer compared to the lutein and zeaxanthin group. Nearly double. That risk was concentrated in former smokers. Important context. But it was significant enough that the NIH formally removed beta-carotene from the recommended formulation. The nutrient your parents associated with healthy eyes, pulled from the leading clinical eye supplement, replaced with something that actually works for the macula. And this is why it matters. If your eye health strategy right now is built around carrots and a basic multivitamin, you may not be covering what your macula is actually asking for. Lutein and zeaxanthin from dark leafy greens and eggs, anti-inflammatory omega-3 support from flaxseed. None of this is exotic. It's just not what most people are thinking about. What worries me is the timing of all this. A MD doesn't announce itself early. There's no pain, no dramatic change you notice one morning. It accumulates in silence, and by the time vision starts to shift, the damage behind it has been building for years. I've talked to people who came in for a routine appointment, nothing felt wrong, and found out on a scan that they already had early to intermediate AMD. The first question is always the same: what can I do now? And the honest answer is, more than you can do once symptoms appear, but less than you could have done 3 years earlier when this first started. I've had that conversation more times than I'd like. These are people who would have done something different if someone had told them sooner. That's what I want this video to be for you. So, 2 things flaxseed is doing that carrots simply aren't: addressing the dry eye mechanism at its source, and contributing the anti-inflammatory support that retinal tissue depends on as we age. There's one more layer to this. The last piece is the most practical, and it's the one that determines whether any of this actually makes a difference. Knowing something and doing something are different things, so let me give you a clear starting point. Flaxseed oil. Capsules are the easiest approach for most people. If you prefer the liquid, keep it refrigerated and use it up within a few weeks of opening. Flaxseed oil goes rancid faster than most oils, and once it does, it's not doing you any good. Capsules are more stable and easier to stay consistent with day to day. For the lutein and zeaxanthin piece, remember those 2 retinal pigments from earlier, the ones that actually live in the macula. The answer is simpler than most people expect. Dark leafy greens, kale, spinach, Swiss chard. A cup of cooked spinach has more lutein and zeaxanthin than most commercial supplements. Eggs are also excellent, and the lutein from egg yolks is actually more bioavailable than from greens alone because it comes packaged with fat, which the body needs to absorb it properly. So what does a realistic starting point look like? A flaxseed oil capsule with breakfast, eggs 2 or 3 mornings a week, a handful of spinach wherever it fits, a smoothie, a soup alongside dinner. That's the meaningful shift. None of this requires overhauling anything. And this is where consistency matters more than intensity. These nutrients don't give you a result in 48 hours. They work over weeks and months, building up in retinal tissue, reducing inflammation gradually, stabilizing the tear film over time. The people who benefit most aren't the ones who went hard for 2 weeks. They're the ones who made it a quiet, unremarkable part of the routine and kept going. I want to be straightforward with you about what this is and what it isn't. Flaxseed oil isn't going to reverse AMD that's already advanced. Getting more leafy greens in isn't going to cure dry eye overnight. What this is protection. It's keeping the window open on your vision for longer than it would stay open otherwise. After 60, that's the meaningful goal, not reversing time, slowing the clock. And if someone tells you to eat more carrots for your eyes, you can nod politely, go home, and make yourself some eggs and spinach instead. All right, here's what I want you to walk away with. Pick one thing. If dry eye is your issue, start with the flaxseed oil. If AMD risk concerns you, and given that it affects 1 in 8 people over 60, it should be on your radar, start with the leafy greens and eggs. If you want to cover both at once, a flaxseed oil capsule alongside eggs in the morning is one of the most straightforward, well-supported changes you can make for your vision at this stage of life. You know what to put on the grocery list. The only question is whether you actually go get it. If this was useful, subscribe. I cover exactly this kind of thing. The information that should be common knowledge, but somehow never quite makes it into the conversation. Take care of your eyes. They're worth it.